Although we all know that nobody is perfect, it is interesting to note that some famous individuals in history make a great effort to appear good, but upon deeper examination, we discover darker aspects of their lives. A notable example is Mahatma Gandhi, who is often praised for his pacifism and inspiring leadership. However, some revelations about Gandhi may come as a surprise. According to biographer Jade Addams, in 1883, at the age of 13, Gandhi married Kasturba, who was 14, and the couple had a normal sexual life. However, when Gandhi's father was on his deathbed, the pacifist leader left him alone to engage in intimate relations with his wife, resulting in his father's death during the act. Feeling guilty, Gandhi came to view sex differently and eventually adopted the vow of celibacy in his 30s, along with a vow of poverty. He had to develop various techniques to cope with celibacy, such as the Indian practice called brahmacharya, which involves bathing and sleeping naked but maintaining celibacy and avoiding any sexual talk. Interestingly, Gandhi seemed to bend these rules in certain situations. For instance, he used to bathe with an attractive sister of his secretary, considering it normal. After his wife's death, other women started sleeping with Gandhi, but according to local tradition, this forbade them from sleeping with their own husbands. Gandhi's biographer claims that he subjected himself to sensory trials, such as striptease from his companions or other non-physical sexual activities, as a way to deal with his celibacy. While Gandhi's official history is filled with inspiring deeds, these revelations about his intimate life have tarnished his reputation. Even today, many question whether Mahatma Gandhi was truly the good man that many believe him to be. These dark details shed light on the complexity of the lives of historical figures and remind us that nobody is perfect, not even the most venerable icons. Now let's talk about Abraham Lincoln, the famous President of the United States. On one hand, historians say he was one of the greatest presidents of the United States and a proponent of freedom, even emancipating slaves. On the other hand, some people question how he treated African Americans and Native Americans. This questioning has led to protests and even acts of vandalism against a statue of the former president, with one school even changing its name due to Lincoln's treatment of Native Americans. Why do they say he was racist? It's because of the numerous jokes and absurdities he made. For instance, he once said that African Americans were inferior to whites and proposed sending them back to Africa. If some of Lincoln's public statements about African Americans were said today, he would probably be canceled on social media and likely lose his presidency. However, some people argue that he said and did all of this over 150 years ago, so imposing 21st century standards on people who lived more than a century and a half ago is rather absurd. The legendary Nikola Tesla also advocated some rather bizarre ideas. Born in Croatia in 1856, he was an inventor, physicist, and electrical engineer, and became widely known for his contributions to the development of the alternating current electricity system and inventions that still capture the attention of popular culture today. However, he also advocated for eugenics, which is the selection of human beings based on their hereditary traits with the aim of improving future generations. It was from eugenics that the ideas of that German dictator, the one whose name I'd rather not say, arose, the one who believed in theories of racial purity. In 1935, in one of his notations, Tesla expressed his support for eugenics, writing, "The year 2100 will see eugenics universally established." In past ages, the law governing the survival of the fittest has worked relentlessly to weed out the less desirable strains. Then, man's new sense of pity began to interfere with the ruthless workings of nature. As a result, we continue to keep alive and to breed the unfit. The only method compatible with our notions of civilization and race is to prevent the breeding of the unfit by sterilization and the deliberate guidance of the mating instinct. Various European countries and American states sterilized criminals and the mentally ill. The trend among eugenicists was to make marriage more difficult, and it was believed that only those deemed desirable parents should be allowed to have children. Tesla was not alone in believing this, as support for eugenics was one of the few things that people across political lines in the early 20th century agreed upon. Fortunately, such thinking did not spread to the point of being widely put into practice. For many people, criticizing Mother Teresa of Calcutta is almost a sin. She became famous for her dedication to helping the poor and sick. However, some question whether her true motivations were somewhat selfish. Some believe that she was more focused on increasing the numbers of her own religion than on actually helping those in need. Mother Teresa's missions, despite receiving generous charity donations, did not always provide a suitable environment to help the poor and sick recover. Many of these places were inadequate, with a shortage of doctors, food, and even painkillers. Nevertheless, Mother Teresa seemed to find a kind of beauty in suffering, as if the pain were making the world a better and holier place. It is important to clarify that this perspective is not mine but based on words that Mother Teresa herself said to the famous writer Christopher Hitchens. She stated that there was something beautiful in seeing the poor accept their fate and suffer like the Passion of Christ, believing that the world gained much from this suffering. Interestingly, these words did not apply to Mother Teresa herself, as according to Hitchens, when she was ill, she received treatment in good North American hospitals. It seems that Mother Teresa did not see value in her own suffering but rather in the suffering of the less fortunate. Another view shared by Hitchens is that Mother Teresa's true purpose was to use her charitable works as a means of converting people to Roman Catholicism. Additionally, she believed that the poor, sick, and suffering were akin to Jesus on the cross and that by suffering as Christ did, they would draw closer to the Son of God. These controversial perspectives on Mother Teresa's life and motivations lead us to reflect on human complexity and the different interpretations that can arise regarding public and religious figures. It is essential to keep an open mind and consider multiple viewpoints before forming an opinion on such a delicate subject. Let's talk about John Lennon. The Beatles reached the top of the charts 20 times with 34 songs in the top 10 of the Billboard, and some of the most recognized songs on the planet. However, no matter how talented Lennon was, he wasn't such a nice guy, or so they say. Besides abandoning his son, he physically abused his wife before leaving her. And this time, it's not just people drawing these conclusions. The singer himself admitted in an interview that he used to be cruel to his wife, hitting her and depriving her of things she loved. In fact, he acknowledged being a jerk with any woman. Sean Lennon, John's son with Yoko Ono, has also made statements about his father in an interview with Rolling Stones. He said that his father's greatest achievement was recognizing that he was a macho idiot. So, did you know about the dark side of all these famous people? Again, it is essential to remember that what we presented here were some points of view and different personalities from history. It doesn't mean that everything said here is an absolute truth. We are talking about perspectives, and as I mentioned before, it's up to each individual to analyze and draw their conclusions. In conclusion, exploring the lives of famous individuals like John Lennon can be eye-opening. It's important to recognize that even though they achieved great success and left a significant impact on the world, they were still flawed human beings. Learning about their darker sides reminds us that fame and talent don't necessarily make someone a good person. As we delve into history and hear different perspectives, we should remember that these accounts are not definitive truths, but rather glimpses into the complexities of human nature. It's a reminder that we should approach our idols with a critical eye, appreciating their artistry while also acknowledging their imperfections. Ultimately, the journey of self-discovery and understanding should not only be about learning from the successes of others but also from their mistakes. Let's strive to be better individuals and appreciate the full spectrum of humanity, both the good and the flawed, as we continue to explore the stories of those who have left an indelible mark on our world.